Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take sources, sometimes unexpected ones, and really pull out the key insights for you. And today, we're diving into something maybe a bit unusual, a user guide.
Yeah, not your typical source, maybe.
Right. It's the Emergency Beacon User Guide for a system called Dimetra. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Our user guide, really? How interesting can that be?
hmm
But honestly, our mission here is to show you how even documentation like this can be packed with surprising facts, critical operational details, and even fascinating stuff about legal frameworks and global compliance you just wouldn't expect. We're basically going to unpack it all and give you a real shortcut to understanding this specific technology.
That's exactly it. And what's fascinating, I think, is how much vital information,
Yeah.
everything from tech specs to really significant legal disclaimers is all packed into what looks like just a how-to manual. It really highlights the layers of detail needed to properly understand these kinds of systems.
Okay, so let's start unpacking. What exactly is this emergency beacon thing? The guide says it's optional, first off, and
Hmm.
it's got three main bits: control lights, a buzzer, and then the actual emergency beacon application software.
Right. And if you look at the bigger picture, it's implemented on a specific piece of hardware, the Motorola MCC 7500 Dispatch Console PC. Think of that as the dispatcher's main workstation.
It's okay.
This beacon system talks to the main dispatch application, basically to keep track of alert statuses. The hardware itself just plugs into a USB port. But, and this is important, it's actually a separate application.
All right.
Yeah, it operates independently from the main dispatch software, it just, communicates with it.
Gotcha. And the guide gets really specific about the alerts, the lights, and sounds.
Yeah.
That's where it gets interesting for the user, right? It details the colors. Green is the default state.
Yeah.
Means no emergency alarms happening, all clear.
Standard go signal, basically.
Yeah. Then yellow. That light comes on when an emergency alarm call is actually received.
So that's the initial flag. Something's happened.
Exactly. And it switches back to green only when a user actively ends that alarm.
And then there's red. That's the escalation.
Right. How does that work?
The indicator turns red if a yellow alarm, that initial flag, isn't acknowledged by an operator within a certain time. And that time window, it's predefined, but crucially, it's configurable.
Ah, so you can set how long someone has to respond before it goes red?
Exactly. Tailor it to the workflow. And once acknowledged, it flips back to yellow. The buzzer, too, that also sounds after a predefined configurable time if an alarm isn't acknowledged.
Wait, so the buzzer has its own timer, separate from the red light timer?
Yes, exactly, a separate timer, which is, quite flexible. And you can even configure the sound continuous or pulsating. There's actually a little jumper inside the buzzer module for that.
A physical jumper. Wow, okay. A little old school there.
Yeah, sometimes the physical controls are still there. And if you get multiple alarms, say a yellow one and then a red one comes in,
What happens then?
the system always shows the most urgent status. So red always overrides yellow. Priority is clear.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And the application status is shown in the taskbar too, right, with icons?
Yep, clear visual cues there as well. A black icon means the service is running, but no user is logged into the main dispatch console. So inactive from a user perspective.
Okay.
Green icon means active, no alarms. Yellow icon, active, yellow alarm. Red icon, active, red alarm. Pretty intuitive.
And there's one more, a crossed out one.
Right, a black crossed icon, that means something's up. Either the service isn't running properly, maybe an error, or it can't detect the USB hardware, or it's been put into testing mode.
Okay. And how does the system actually start up? Does the user need to do anything?
No, it's designed to be automatic mostly. The core service, the background part, starts up automatically when you log on to Windows. Then the GUI, the part you actually see and interact with, that starts up after you successfully log into the main Elite application. That's the dispatch software.
Right, the Motorola software?
Yeah. Once you're logged into Elite, then the beacon hardware becomes active, and the taskbar icon shows the current status. But importantly, if you're not logged into Elite, the emergency beacon can only run in testing mode. It needs that connection to Elite for live operation.
Okay, that clarifies the operational side. Now, say you have this system installed. How do you configure those timers you mentioned, or maybe test it? The guide seems pretty straightforward here. You just right-click the taskbar icon, choose configuration, and then you can set those two key timers. How long until yellow turns red and how long until the buzzer kicks in?
Yeah, it seems simple enough. And what's quite clever about the design here is that even while you're in that configuration screen tweaking the settings, the actual monitoring service stays active in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it can still receive alarm calls and notify you. It doesn't stop monitoring just because you're configuring, ensures that critical function isn't interrupted.
That's smart, continuous operation. And what about testing the hardware itself, like making sure the lights and buzzer work? Guides as you right-click the icon again, but this time select testing.
Right, and during that test mode, the background service is still active, still monitoring for real alarms.
But it doesn't show them on the beacon hardware.
Exactly. All the indicators, the lights and buzzer, are switched off from live alerts. They're reserved just for the test sequence you initiate. The alarms are still being monitored silently, but the hardware won't react to them because, well, it's being tested. And that taskbar icon even turns to that black crossed symbol to show everyone, hey, this unit is in test mode.
Ah, okay, so it clearly isolates testing from live alerts.
Yeah.
Prevents confusion.
It's a very deliberate design,
Yeah.
safety critical stuff. When you're done testing, you just close the testing window, or you can right-click the icon and hit exit. The GUI window closes, the icon disappears from the taskbar, but the background service, that keeps running. And the hardware immediately becomes ready for live operation again.
So the core service is always there unless there's an actual error.
Pretty much, yeah. Designed for high availability.
Okay, now let's talk support. What if something does go wrong or you need help? The guide gives pretty clear steps. First, RTFM around, read the flipping manual essentially,
Ah, yes. Standard advice.
and use the built-in help menu in the application itself. If it's a bigger problem, like with the main Elite Admin application, they suggest looking at specific troubleshooting guides or, escalating to a supervisor.
And this is where you see the professional support structure kick in. The guide doesn't just stop there. It gives direct contact details for technical help via the Motorola System Support Center. Interestingly, they have different numbers for internal Motorola staff versus end users, like the dispatch center.
Right, peered support.
Exactly. And they tell you exactly what information to have ready when you call. Customer name, problem description, serial numbers, proof of warranty, or a purchase order number if it's out of warranty. Standard stuff for enterprise support, really.
Makes the call more efficient.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it goes further, detailing regional support, too. They mention the EMEA Systems Support Center,
Yeah.
the European Systems Component Center, gives emails, phone numbers, even the physical address in Berlin for sending hardware for repairs.
Wow, okay, so a truly global support network behind this seemingly small beacon.
Yeah, it underlines that this isn't just a consumer gadget. It's part of a much larger mission-critical infrastructure.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. This is often the part people skip, but it can be surprisingly revealing. The fine print. Legal stuff, warranties, compliance. First up, software copyrights. They are really strict here.
Yeah.
The guide explicitly states that just buying the product gives you no license to copy, decompile, reverse engineer, distribute, or modify their copyrighted software. You need express written permission from Motorola for any of that.
That's pretty standard for proprietary software, especially in this kind of market, but it's good they state it so clearly. What about liability? That's often the really interesting part in the fine print.
You called it. They limit their total liability for any warranty breach. Their options are basically repair it, replace it, or refund the purchase price. That's it,
At their option, of course.
of course. And then they go on to disclaim all other warranties. Things like implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Gone.
So it works as described, but don't assume it's perfect for your specific, unique need, basically.
Right. And they explicitly state they aren't liable for incidental or consequential damages, knock-on effects of a failure, as much as the law allows them to disclaim that.
That's a significant limitation of liability. It really shows how manufacturers manage risk in these high-stakes environments. They provide the tool, but a lot of the operational risk stays with the user.
Definitely. Now let's get specific on the warranties they do offer. The hardware warranty for what they call Centricom Gold Series products is 1 year, parts and labor. And for the first 120 days, that labor is even provided on site.
Okay, 1 year is fairly standard, but what are the catches? There are always catches.
Oh yes. The warranty does not cover defects if you use it in ways other than its normal manner. Also misuse, vandalism, accidents, neglect, or if you try to improperly take it apart, maintain it, install it, or do unauthorized modifications.
So basically, don't mess with it, don't abuse it, and install it correctly, or the warranty might be void. Makes sense.
And the software warranty, that's even tighter. Only the first 120 days after they ship it.
Only 120 days. Wow. And what do they warrant for during that time?
They warrant it'll be free from, get this, reproducible defects that cause a material variance from its published specification.
Reproducible defects. That's key. If they can't replicate the bug, they might not fix it under warranty.
Exactly. And only if it causes a material variance, and only when it's properly used. Lots of qualifiers.
What don't they warrant?
They explicitly don't warrant that it will be uninterrupted or completely error-free,
Okay. Standard software disclaimer.
or that every single defect will be corrected, or, and this is a big one, that the program will meet your particular requirements.
Right. Back to that fitness for purpose disclaimer again.
Yeah. And they also state they're not responsible for problems caused by changes you make to the computer's operating system after you've installed their software,
Oh, the OS update trap. That gets a lot of people.
or problems caused by interactions with other non-Motorola software running on the same machine.
Compatibility issues, basically. They're saying our software works, but we can't guarantee it'll play nice with everything else you install.
Precisely. And this warranty, only for the first person or entity who licenses it. If it gets transferred, the next person gets it as is, no warranties.
Wow. Okay. That really shifts the risk onto the user, especially regarding system integration and long-term maintenance.
It really does. So, summing that up, use it right, don't change anything around it, hope you find bugs quickly, and don't expect it to be perfect or tailored just for you.
A slightly sobering perspective from the fine print.
Indeed. And there's more. An FCC interference warning.
Oh. Like for radios?
Yeah. It's a Class A computing device, meaning it's intended for commercial industrial environments, not residential. It generates radio frequency energy. If it's not installed right, it could interfere with radio communications. And if you happen to operate it in a residential area, and it does cause interference,
Let me guess. It's your problem.
you got it. The user is responsible for fixing it at their own expense,
So keep it in the dispatch center, basically.
pretty much. Now, beyond U.S. regulations like the FCC, there's a really fascinating bit about Chinese regulations. CMM, China Management Methods for environmental stuff.
Environmental regs in a user guide. Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, they require specific labels. There's a Logo 1, which means the product contains no hazardous substances above the legal limits. Pretty straightforward.
Think a clean bill of health.
But then there's Logo 2. This means the product might contain some of those substances above the limits. And if it does, it has an EFUP number printed on it.
EFUP.
Environmental friendly use, period. It's a number of years. Meaning that's the period during which those potentially hazardous substances won't leak out or mutate in a way that could cause environmental pollution or bodily harm after that period. The implication is it might not be environmentally safe anymore.
Wow. That's incredibly specific, and it shows the global reach of regulations, doesn't it? A manufacturer like Motorola has to track and label potentially hazardous substances down to the component level, not just for performance, but for environmental safety decades down the line, specifically for the Chinese market in this case.
Exactly. It's a real window into the complexity of global manufacturing and compliance today. Things you just wouldn't think about from looking at a little beacon. So what a journey, huh? We went from a simple emergency beacon with flashing lights
Right, the basic function.
to understanding its configurable timers,
Yeah.
the separate background service, the specific testing protocols.
Then plunged into the depths of limited warranties, liability disclaimers, FCC warnings.
And ended up discussing Chinese environmental regulations and end-of-life safety periods, all from one user guide.
It really was quite the deep dive. It shows just how critical it is to understand not just how tech works, but the whole ecosystem around it, legal, operational support, even environmental frameworks.
Yeah.
It demonstrates the sheer complexity hidden behind products that might seem quite simple on the surface, especially when they're used in critical situations.
Absolutely. It makes you pause and think, doesn't it, about how much crucial context and hidden information is packed into documents we usually just file away or ignore. Hopefully you feel much more informed now about what this emergency beacon system really involves, far beyond just looking at the lights.
And maybe this raises a final thought for you, the listener. If this much insight and detail can be unearthed from a humble user guide, what other everyday documents, maybe sitting on your desk or in your downloads folder right now, might be holding keys to you being truly well informed about something important?